Hello, very good afternoon to you. I was just absorbed in reading bits and pieces in the Mirror newspaper. I'm happy that you're joining me again for another edition of Getting It Right. Today our program comes on a few minutes late. I apologize for that. We had some serious business to record in the studio, so we're asking your forgiveness, but here we are. And at the same time, Peter won't be here and the program fall in mine, so he's graciously given me that time. So we have an extended, almost original 1 hour Getting It Right. It's a call-in program. We'll welcome your calls anytime, and of course my cell phone is available, 623-8696. The operator can put it up, 623-8696, and we can have a very good interaction today on very serious matters of national importance. The main thing being, of course, as it's getting it right, we've seen there after September the 18th, this government will be illegal. What will be the implications? What are your thoughts on it? So far, a very learned group of people have been having discourses in the newspapers and by letters with the president meetings between the president and Dr Bheri Ramsarran August. But we want to widen it. What are the implications? How is this uncertainty trickling down to you, the householder, the mother, the father, the grandfather, the caregiver, the grandmother, and so on? And then again, of course, the youth. Well, how is it trickling down to you? What are your apprehensions? Because this is serious matters, and that's why we have borrowed from the Mirror newspaper the headlines for today. The name of the program: After September 18th, Granger government is illegal. What does that mean? What does that mean? And what steps they can take to avoid it? And what steps they should have taken to avoid that, and the role of the leader of the opposition, and of course Mr. Irfan Ali, seen in this picture here, which the operator might be able to pull up. He's in a peaceful confrontation with the police officer, trying to explain to him why we should be allowed to continue picketing and demonstrating peacefully. Of course, the police did up till so far a very professional job. They have been able to coordinate with the protesters and with people like Mr. Ali and other leaders. And I see you have other leaders there in the picture, Peter Ramsarran and so on. I was there on practically all of these activities. So we have very peaceful activities, very sometimes chanting and shouting slogans and so on. That's very vociferous, but in peaceful conditions, that is allowable. That is even acceptable, very acceptable, and it sends across a message. So we want you to tell us, this is your program. The Granger government is illegal. Where are we going? And they're going into this state of unconstitutionality and illegalness with their eyes open, knowing that they've been, and unfortunately they're being advised by someone who's been called many unfortunate names, the current Attorney General, Mr. Basil Williams. And some people seem to think that that's where the problem is. As a matter of fact, some commentators are calling for Mr. Granger to get proper legal advice. Okay, we see on the scene now there's an older man, what more learned apparently than Mr. Williams himself, and he seems to have joined the team, right? And he's been given advice. However, the ill-conceived approach is to stay in government, not to honor the Constitution. Article 106.6 and 106 bracket 7, sub item 7, and where it says clearly that once there has been a successful vote of no confidence in the government or against the government, or that the government lost in the parliament, that government, regardless of which party leads it or which coalition leads it, must take certain steps. One, the president has to resign, the cabinet has to resign. But notwithstanding the fact that they have resigned, certain vital residual powers will remain, especially the president, and those are limited only to fixing the affairs of the nation to have elections. Practically both sides, or could I say all sides involved, because the international community is already weighed into this, and the private sector commission has to lead into it. The private sector generally has lead into this discussion, both as individual organizations and as collective organizations. So no one seems to dispute the fact that the Constitution is clear, elusively clear, that elections should have been held within 3 months following the vote of no confidence being lost by the cabal, by the PNC APNO AFC coalition cabal. Hello, hello, getting it right.
You don't stop talking lies. That is what they have PPP.
Oh, I wonder if that lady's in Ghana. I only need to point out the 2,000 people, 2,000 plus people, persons, men, women, young adults, older folk, of all professions, all backgrounds, and of course a nice mix of the Guyanese ethnicities there, which happened a few days ago outside Granger's office. Granger peaceful, 2,000 to 3,000 people picketing, and of course that was being sent up to our people in the diaspora, Canada, America, and across the world, almost in real time, right, with the technology that we do have. So that lady who just came in screaming, I want to thank you first of all for watching the program. I want to respect your opinion because I understand your frustrations and the fact that you're supporting the wrong party, but we can work on those things, and we love you too. We want you to join us. Hello, we're getting it right. Welcome.
When is the next protest?
Well, remember we have now in place a new head of the GCOM, a new chief executive officer. So I suspect that the persons who are protesting and who came along there will probably be given a little reprieve to see that are settling and so on, you know, because remember there was a demand for the chair to be filled, chairperson to be filled quickly. Well, it has not been done quickly, but it has eventually been done, and therefore there's only decent, I think, I don't know what is the correct answer here, but I think it's only decent that she's given the Madam New Chair is given some reprieve, some breather, that she gets to know people, gets to get things done and so on, right? So remember it's only a few days ago, right? And I'm certain...
She was already in when we were protesting out there.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that protest was already, we didn't know she would have been taking up the job at that time. Things changed quickly. So we needed still to send the message that we are not falling to sleep, we are not fooled. And so
but you know what? They promised me 10,000 and I ain't get the money.
Who promised you 30,000?
Kwame Bakari promised me 10,000.
Well, that can be so. That is
I'm
unfortunate.
telling you,
It can be so.
paid.
No, it can be so. You're using this program to meet at the office of the opposition to trash that out. No, this is totally voluntary. Totally voluntary. We don't need. How the hell the PPP gonna pay 3,000 people 30,000? Even the PPP is not that rich, right? We need to garner our monies to fight cold battles and at the same time to fight the elections. As a matter of fact, I can tell you the manifesto is already being prepared, almost ready for print, and those are added expenses. So you, the party members, especially party supporters, please keep up your fundraising activities. We know that you took a commitment many months ago, and some of you have already started returns, right? My own group, the Campbell PPP group, which is one of the oldest and largest groups in the community, among party groups, is having their activity very shortly, and we probably get you some tickets, show you some tickets late in the show, or on the next show. We want you to support us, so we need the monies to fight the legitimate things, and all the party work is done voluntarily. And I want to congratulate all of those persons, those red shirt persons. The basic minimum that might have been provided is like partially transportation. What I mean by that, the bus is owned by somebody who is a party member, but sympathetic, and he donates that, whereas he might be given a few gallons of fuel. That is simple, right? Or he might somehow get some other person who has connections with the private sector, or private sector meaning in the village, not necessarily nationally, and they get them. So Guyanese are organizing, they are accustomed to doing these things now with the guidance of the PPP and the influence, and the point is, they do it voluntarily because they realize that suddenly, some of them for a long time now, that the party is the real thing, the real organization that can push their struggles and get the illegal government after September 18, get this illegal government out of the way, or bring them to boot, bring them to become reasonable and observe the Constitution. Those are things that we should be discussing today. There's a little pushback, the impression being given that the PPP is wrong, the PPP should do this and do that. Well, should the PNC, APNO, AFC, Granger, Nagamutu, Ramjatan, Cabal, Coalition Cabal, should they have been doing the right thing since the night that they Parliament voted a positive yes for the no confidence motion. Remember that night things seem to have gone so fast, so quickly, that it looks like if it was so long ago when Chandas took that historic, bold move to vote by his conscience, and he said there's no confidence. And they remember what it was? They wanted to beat him up. These Democrats, these good democratic people wanted to beat him up. So we've come a long way, and we at this stage now, where the PPP, led by its presidential candidate, Mr. Irfan Ali, and its General Secretary, Dr. Bheri Ramsarran, are organizing, or is organizing, PPP is organizing massive and ongoing protests. So, to answer that question, a little subset of the question the lady just posed, yes, we were protesting even as the new person had already been sworn in, but I get the impression that it's because that was planned already, and because we needed to send a message to the international community, to other Guyanese, and especially to the president, because he had to be given a job to wake up. So I'm certain that we have, as Dr. Jagu said, we have confidence in the good intentions and the good work of the new chair of the Elections Commission, and let's see when she gets down to the work, how things happen and how we can work together. Election should be less tiresome, less aggravated, less contentious in Guyana. We've been at it too long, and every election there is this issue. Now, the next point we would like to bring up from my desk here is the list. One of the contentious things has been for some time to time the list until a few elections back, when there was general agreement in how the list should be formulated. That is, people from 14 years on upwards must be registered, and as they mature and become young adults and become empowered and constitutionally to vote, they automatically, when they meet that magic point of 18 years, automatically get on the list. That's commonsensical. Now you have the illegality. Not only is the Granger government heading to illegality, but it's now executing even another, GCOM is executing, not the Granger government, but GCOM, under the quite complicit conspiratorial approach with the government, is actually extending itself, and is now taking on an illegal house registration. And at the same time, its foot soldiers, the GCOM enumerators, are sometimes tacitly intimidating Guyanese by threatening them with some punishment if they do not register. And of course, they do this in some, especially in some areas and some households who seem less educated and less informed. But we like to thank the Guyanese generally right across the board for being strong, and even if you might not be lettered and quite have a lot of letters behind your name, at least you're educated enough as citizens. Your civic duty, and many of you, droves of you, have refused, have peacefully declined, I want to emphasize the word peacefully declined, to register. Because just like how GCOM is intimidating you, and I'm saying this because I've had those such complaints, people calling in, not necessarily on this program, but at other times, and people meeting you in the markets, in the taxi stands, in many places, and complaining that there's a subset of GCOM operatives who, to get the job done, intimates that you can get locked up, they can arrest you and all kind of thing if you do not cooperate. The party's position stands: we are not cooperating with this illegal activity. The list can be cleansed in the manner that it was supposed to be cleansed, and more recently, within the past few days, the utterances of Mr. Lowenfield have supported this. He said that if the list is bloated, bloated was the term he was using, and he was referring to someone else who was trying to interview him. If the list is bloated, how do you get rid of it? And let me tell you how it can be done easily, especially for those. I want to speak particularly to the PNC, APNO, AFC supporters, because this is where you're losing credibility, and your organization should at least ensure that their elections are free and fair by cleaning the list up in the manner that is doable, and not do the following. The house campaign must be called off, because it's geared for one thing. Number one, it's geared to stretch out the period when the elections will be held. Because once you go in the field and you bring back to the office all that information, then you'll have very inaccuracies, misspellings. It's this diabolical plan they have to use a legitimate tool, that is house registration, when it is not supposed to be used. It's like using a hypodermic needle, which can do good things in medicine, to injure someone. The same instrument, but it should have been done way back when the PPP called for it. Now we're going along with this list. We're saying even with the deficiencies it has, the system is so geared that it can be managed in-house. It can be managed, and besides that, with international observers in the polling stations, every polling stations, with the observers of each party, each contesting party, especially the parliamentary parties, the government and the opposition, having representatives there. It's impossible for any dead man to walk in. That used to happen on the Burnham. Dead people walking in and voting, and, and sometimes it was quite amusing. So even horses used to vote on the Burnham, right? So that their mechanisms, and I want you to comment on this, if you will. There are mechanisms already in place, and that was what was envisioned when this approach was done several elections back, when the registration process started, to generate this list. So this list is doable, this list is workable, and the only reason that the government is doing this madness of having a second go at a new registration activity, house to house, is to, one, prolong the time there is that there will be in government, because we know that although a timetable might be fixed, there's always some hitches and glitches. That's one. Secondly, to rig the elections. And you can probably call in on what your apprehensions on the methods they might be using for rigged elections. Even while I was on my way to the studio, there's another apprehension, another concern raised by a few citizens. They're alleging that foreigners who are passing through Guyana are being registered, and some of them are disappearing into Guyana. Guyanese can have quite a conspiratorial approach to life sometimes. And those are things you might want to bring up from your side. I'm saying that, one, they are having this registration process for, one, spread out the life, push the life of the government further and further beyond the expected constitutional limit, which was supposed to be already over. Then they supposed to have been resigned and we should have been in election phase already. In this regard, particularly, the large influx of Haitians is being mentioned. You might want to, it's a bit murky, a murky issue there, but there's some suspicion, and at these times we have to be very careful, because election time, you become very suspicious, you become very paranoid sometimes. So we need to look at that, and the government need to come clean and tell us what's going on, and probably that's particularly with the Haitians. And what about it? We heard about these COIs, Commission of Inquiries, into this and into that. We haven't even had the results of some of them. Mr. Thomas, Professor Thomas, was the main hawk, the main fighter on the side of the government, always being mentioned as the driver behind certain COIs, Commission of Inquiries. Well, we heard not lots of money was spent, millions and millions were spent. There was harassment of PPP leadership. Nothing came of it, not one single charge. But all that money is gone into the pockets of basically friends of the PNC, APNO, AFC, Granger, Nagamutu, Ramjatan. That's where it's gone. So what about the COI now? Why can't we have some committee, some task force quickly? This is just coming off of what I got on the road a few minutes back. One person was saying, look at these COIs, Doc. Dr. Bheri, look at these COIs. How many they were having people trembling, and intimidating people. Why isn't there something more forthcoming on something that is more vital? The government of this election of the government of the people of this country, which will influence for years and even generations what happens now. Where is the COI? Or don't let's call it the COI. There might be hackneyed, trumpeted too much name or designation. But why can't there be an investigation into it and you come clear? For example, this situation is causing some apprehension among Guyanese. There are rumors about where these people are going, and some people allege that they know where is the staging area, where is the holding area, which house, and of course it gets a life of its own, a snowball effect. So the government needs to come clear, and I think at a press briefing of Dr. Jagdio recently, during this week, that was one of the points raised. How are you going to explain to the Guyanese, how are you going to make them comfortable that this is not misusing or even some form of human trafficking Where are these people going? And are they being given identification cards? A whole host of issues are being peddled there outside. Some of it might not be true, but the point is, these are touchy times, especially in the run-up to elections. And especially the Guyanese have a wealth of experience with the PNC rigging elections, so this is understandable, and probably the international community should look at it too, because it creates a poor atmosphere in the prelude to elections. A bad playing field being created with this suspicion, and because it's known that these people from Haiti are actually coming, and although we love our brothers and sisters from Haiti, we must see that they're not misused as cannon fodder for rigging elections. So that's another point you might want to bring up. You might want to elaborate on, while at the same time we recognize that Haiti, being the poorest country in this hemisphere, needs that type of help, and we've always been supporting that. The party, as a matter of fact, when we were in office, when they had a few years back, they had that terrible earthquake, we also mobilized support for them, material support and sending people to help. So Haiti, we love you, but at the same time, we will not allow our democratic traditions and democratic gains to be undermined with the misuse of your citizens. Okay? So the next point that I had been advised by my foot soldiers who met me a little bit before I came in is to mention this. There seems to be some mischief on the part of GCOM by claiming that people are attacking their teams. One of the absurd examples was that dogs were loosed on them. Well, I've been around. Let's take this call first. Hello, welcome to Getting It Right. Hello, lower your volume, please. Lower your volume. Remind me to go back to the point with the dogs allegedly attacking people. I'm hearing you. You're on to Getting It Right. You're being heard right across the nation and even in some parts of North America. You ain't getting enough. Freedom Channel is not, Freedom Radio is not working? Well, I can't tell you, I've not been on that ear for so long. I will check for you. The registration, the party is advising that you do not cooperate with it, that it's illegal, that it's a method of pushing the election date back, and that we are afraid that they will have a lot of inaccuracies deliberately done to pad the list. No, there's no election date announced as yet. Okay? Okay, take care. Keep watching. Okay. So coming back to the we were speaking about the influx of Haitians and other nationalities, but particularly the Haitians, which many Guyanese who came to know of it, and recognizing the unique capacity of the PNC, which is now APNU, to rig elections, successive elections, that they're suspicious. Sometimes this might be just people, refugees getting away from Haiti and just passing through Guyana and going to Cayenne. I suspect a lot of that is this. But because of the mistrust that Guyanese have for their government, or for the government, because this is not their government, they are having these apprehensions. So we need to look at that, and at the same time we need to look at the issue among the 18-year-olds. The older folk need to get over to them that this is a natural process, that you do not have to have now registered so that you can vote now. When you are registered at 14 years old, obviously common sense would say as you grow and you become 18, you will become eligible to vote, and the system existed to put you automatically on the list. So those are some of the things we need to look at, and we need to have GCOM doing the things that's, as a matter of fact, another point that came up recently, while I was on my way here, I ran into some people. What happened to all the money that we were giving GCOM? How many times there were even some scandals about how the money was appropriated or misappropriated to buy certain stuff. I think it was pliers and walkie-talkies and so on. So there was never any resistance in the parliament by the opposition or the government, whether we were in the opposition or whether we were in government, and vice versa with the now ruling cabal. So where was all this money going, and why suddenly why suddenly you needed to have the correction of a list that came out of that very expensive process. So those are things we need to look at, and we need to be firm, and especially supporters of the government. It's not like in the past, you look at like a big trickery and you smile and you laugh and you say we win. This is undermining the very morale of the country, the young people who are seeing what's going on. And that's why sometimes they throw their hands up in the air and say, politicians are all a bunch of scams, right? But let's cut the politics at GCOM and let's take another call. Hello, welcome to Getting It Right. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I got to give thing to the NDC concerning scope of the open for that 2 times a day.
Sorry, I'm not getting you good. You're breaking up. You calling on who you want to talk to?
On the NDC.
NDC, okay, the Neighborhood Democratic Council.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have a man that normally opens the scope 2 times a day. But sometimes when the man open it, he will open it night time for 1 hour or so, close it down. When you get ready, will not open it. When you finish, your whole yard flood. Even sun has something in yard flood.
This is which area?
Oh, dry.
Port Ryan. Okay. I've heard about such things in other areas, although I think it might be the same issue. The people who will watch the cocoa boxes and the cocoa doors, they sometimes some of them, not in this case you're speaking about, I get regular complaints when we go on field work, when we go do house visit, that they're usually drunk sometimes and they do a lot of madness, right? As a matter of fact, a few years back, it is established that some of the flooding happened because of the miscalculations and misdeeds of the cocoa door people, right?
Some nights, the man will knock up the poker, next morning the whole yard flood. Then you have children. Normally my children will go downstairs to play. They can't go outside the park just to go and run. That's number one, you have to practice snake in the yard.
And you have to be afraid of the feces mixing if they're latrines or cow pens, and it's spreading all about into your living area. So I empathize with you, I understand.
And the other thing, some people in the area have flush toilets and they still have split toilets in their yard.
Okay, or rather, should not say okay. That should be a bad indication of public health. And why don't you do this? Why don't we try to approach the health authorities in the area? I'm willing to assist. So if you call back after the program, we can communicate with you. And probably if somebody's being a bit lazy, a bit delinquent, and sometimes even the landowners are not cooperative because they're getting their rents anyhow. I don't know your area, so I've taken your number. But right, and don't give me any name, right? I will just put it down as cocoa door, right? Flooding, right? So call me back after the program, right? And we will see what we can do. Sometimes it's simple things. Okay, right. While I don't want this program to become like a one of some of the famous programs in the past. I can't right now, it's at the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember the name. When you solve problems and you run and with your camera make nice looking semi-documentaries. I will look into this case and hopefully we get some solution. But the NDC representative in this area should be a bit ashamed. They should be taking the team there, especially the health personnel from the NDC, to have a look, even if it's just a look and you can't do anything, but you must be there, and who knows, you might be able to do something. And at the same time encourage the people from a health point of view to do certain things, right? For example, in these conditions, the water mains, the water pipes, some are submerged and they get contaminated. So I'll be diverted a little bit from elections, but I'm offering that lady and probably her community my intervention for whatever it's worth, and I'm certain that the authorities will respond to it, or who knows, they might need some help, right? Some help. Okay, so we were on the issue of the influx of aliens. That's why I'm reading it in the newspapers. I know some of my people who met me on the road speaking, so I'm not using a derogatory term. And not only Haitians, but we're told that Cubans are coming here, right? and because of probably our state structures are weak, it's difficult to monitor how many come and how many go. But so far, it has been established that the Haitians who come here, not all of them are leaving. As a matter of fact, there's one article in one of the recent main newspapers, newspapers, which claims that 6,045 Haitians somehow disappeared into the Guyanese population. That is when they looked at those who came in, the numbers that came in over a certain period of time, and looked at those who left. There was a deficit of some 6,245 by that one report. And it's a reputable newspaper, so although I did not check it myself, I'm basing my groundings on the fact that it's a reputable newspaper which claimed to have done some checks, right? So even if it's 1,000, 2,000, there must be something that our immigration structures need to look into, services need to look into, right? Because what some journalists are trying to put it down to is basically people smuggling. It can be, as a matter of fact, that is what Dr. Jagdio pointed out. Is this a big people smuggling, taking advantage of the plight of the Haitians? Again, Haitians being, given a raw deal. They've been given a raw deal for generations, right? Especially by the colonial powers, and especially by the former colonial power of France. And that's another story of the history of colonialism and neocolonialism. So we need to look at that, and if you out there want to make comments on that, the intrusion into the Guyanese space at a very peculiar time when we now have elections or preparation for elections, and when there's this suspicious, contentious house-to-house registration campaign, you have this influx of Venezuelans and Haitians, right? Now we are speaking of a COI, right? Why we have a COI, so many things, but we can't get one for those issues that we've been discussing. So these are things that you might want to bring up, right? And I made a note here, Cubans too, right? What really is happening there, and this will make the local population, sleep more peacefully and be more inclined to give credit to the government for doing something correctly, especially at this time. President Granger has made several missteps, like for example the unilateral appointment of Judge Patterson. So there's been a series of things which have undermined the confidence that they have not only in Granger but in the office of the presidency, right? So those are things that he can probably do. Set up a committee to investigate, look into these things. What's happening, where they're going, right? And of course, there's another aspect to it. The Minister Felix, who has a special reputation among the Guyanese people. They seem to be suspicious of him. He is the man who is in charge of this process, heads the ministry which guides our immigration rollout, not of the immigration policy, the bigger policy. So there are lots of things that can be done, and bipartisan, or just like how Jagdian and the president are meeting to have consultations. What is there to hide? It's abroad now. Not only PPP, but ordinary citizens are complaining about this influx. Why is there not an adequate response so far? But we've gone on a little bit on that. I'd like to note too, my crib notes here, the Private Sector Commission has also made certain public statements and public comments at various fora, and which indicates that body too, which organizes under one umbrella about 95% of our bigger businesses, that they're complaining too that we need to have a better atmosphere by being more open, more transparent in our dealings. And by that, I mean the Elections Commission, and of course the persons responsible for the immigration and the conduct of the people coming into Guyana, regardless of where they're coming from, so that you put a cap on this suspicion, this unhealthy uncertainty among vast sections of the Guyanese population that some skullduggery is up to is happening. Now, the PPP is in full election mode. And from time to time, my operator will bring up, I think he still has it, the excerpts from the manifesto. The PPP manifesto is almost finished, but we're going to only be releasing it in a big ceremony and a big splash at a specific time. So this is the excerpt from some points, some of the main things, just to whet your appetite. First page here of this flyer, which is we've distributed probably something 300,000 already in all parts of the country, and I saw some being prepared I think 2 days back. We sent it to the hinterland. So the front page elaborates the transgressions of the PNC. For example, it speaks of their extravagance, the salaries that they pay themselves, the massive not only massive salaries, but additions to salaries that they claim were fat cat salaries. For example, when the PPP was in office, the ministers were referred to as fat cats. Well, my salary was less than what I used to be working as far as a doctor, right, for one. But that was my decision to make a contribution to the wider needs of the society in the country. So those are things that this should be your cheat sheet, your prompt sheet, especially party activists and people who are civic minded. It points out that over the past few years, massive sums have been additional massive sums up and above what were being used in a few years ago have been used by this government on simple things. You might not have picked it up. Spending money on food, more 1.6 billion more for food allowances. That is, for example, when you have meetings, when you have cabinet meetings and so on, when you have ministerial outreach and you have to feed them, when you have various activities of the state where food is involved. So they are spending every year 1.6 billion more. The word is more. It's not that they're spending 1.6 billion, they're spending 1.6 billion on top of what was already being spent for food allowances. And for those of you who don't understand clearly food allowances, it's for those things that the ministers go on and so on. $1.6 billion more, while they're telling you that you can't get 2 consecutive years, sugar workers could not get rise in pay. And of course, the traditional year-end bonus that the PPP used to give to the military and the discipline services generally, that was withdrawn, right? And more so, on the flip side of the document, the PPP takes certain commitments. For example, first point is, we will reinstate the $10,000 cash grant to school children. Remember, the APNO immediately as they came to power, maliciously, in a bad-minded fashion, stopped that $10,000. And as a matter of fact, that was one of the first indications that they were trying to, in such a vindictive and capricious manner, unravel what the PPP had done. What should have been done is that it should have been increased to $20,000 in the next second year, $30,000 the third year, $40,000, and coming up the maximum that the plan envisioned under the PPP was $50,000 at the end to every child. But that was because the PPP was seeing where the funding was coming from. The economy was better managed. People were investing. People were bringing in investment monies and enterprises. And with the change, things have gone quite now. Think bad. Walk down Regent Street now. Think bad. Manufacture has already slumped, and more importantly, the energy sector. How many blackouts are happening? Sometimes every day you get 2 and 3 blackouts, short periods, long periods. So obviously the government cannot continue that. The present government, it cannot give the 10,000 cash grant to children. So the PPP is committing to restore, and that is the key word. It restore means that it was there and it is discontinued. And the mischief is, the badness, the wickedness is, it was discontinued immediately after the elections brought to office this cabal. And not only was it immediately released, but at the same time, their salaries grew, their personal salaries grew, and allowances grew, right? Sometimes by 100%, sometimes by 50%. So those are the things that we want to bring to the attention of you, all my audience out there, but more so and more importantly, the APNU supporters. This is what you're voting for. You need to overcome certain barriers, and how we say, and swallow your pride and vote the right way next time. Vote for the PPC candidate, for the PPC list of ministers and government officials, which will be coming up at the elections. both in a simple term, both for the PNC, for the PPPC list of candidates, list of the elections, and we will get these things. For example, we're going to reinstate, note the term, reinstate the water subsidies to pensioners. Remember that it used to be given under the PPP, right? So suddenly the water subsidy was taken away, the allowance to the school kids were taken away, and surreptitiously the salaries of the government ministers, cabinet ministers, was increased. Do you remember that? It seems so far back, so many years ago, but the things the PPP did were being deliberately and maliciously, vindictively unraveled. Those are two of the things that we will immediately reinstate. And although we hold in our manifesto close to our chest and until the strategic moment to deliver it publicly, I can tell you that these are some of the things, some of the items in the manifesto. I see the red light is on, so I must remind you that there are others in the lineup, like remove limits on vehicles, reverse cost of license and permits for doing business and accessing government services. A list of those, right? So I'd like to first of all thank those people who did call in, and it's a truncated program. I got a little bit of Mr. Ramsarran's time, but next week we will be here again, and hopefully I have a guest. I will be having a guest, most likely Mr. Joseph Hamilton, who is quite a seasoned politician with a wealth of experience. And at the same time, I want to remind you that today, between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock, I will be on with Getting It Right on channel 65. Hope that you can join me there. So we're fading out with a picketing line outside about 3,000 people outside of Granger's office in the city, and that's some of the placards you're seeing there. So I'd like to thank you for being with us, and I'll be glad to receive your informal calls. Goodbye until next noon next Saturday. Bye bye.